But yeah, we're talking about superstars. We're talking about stars around the NHL and all that. I wanted to bring up the question. Now that JT Miller is traded, who is the next star player that might find his way out of his team?
Are we
And I
talking?
asked the question, what?
Sorry, are we talking like deadline? Are we talking like this offseason?
We could see a deadline. We could see it this offseason. Like, whoever we think might get traded relatively soon. I have a couple of names here to really get the ball
All
rolling
right.
for you. So, JT Miller was one of the ones that I was going to bring out, but obviously he got traded. Elias Pettersson was the next one. I talked
Petter,
about P at the beginning.
yeah, according to the media from Vancouver media, Pettersson is now off the trade block, but they might revisit it in the summer. But
So, if.
here's
Sorry.
the thing though. After the draft on July 1st, Pettersson's no move clause kicks in. So if you're a team like Buffalo, and they were apparently in talks for Pettersson, you think Pettersson's going to say, "Yeah, I want to go to Buffalo"?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think for that to happen, first off, you got to get a big return back the other way. It's got to be a Rantanen level return. Like, maybe even, it's got to be more than Rantanen because you're trading away a guy with term. And I also want to say that I think for what it would take, like, Pettersson needs to struggle the whole way the rest of the season.
Yeah,
Like,
if he gets back to form, the Canucks are not trading him.
yeah, you can immediately shut that door.
And I also want to say this: Quinn Hughes is up in 2 years or 3 years. If you trade Pettersson, what message is that sending to Hughes?
Rebuild.
And he's not interested in doing that. So, my theory is if you trade Pettersson, you can basically kiss Hughes goodbye too.
Yeah, 100%. So I think it's less likely to see him traded anyway. The next one, though, I wanted to ask was Artemi Panarin.
Panarin has a no move clause. Panarin likes playing in New York, but obviously with playing in New York, there's a big ton of criticism.
Well, he is a free agent, he is a free agent next offseason. So could you see, like, if the Rangers are bad?
If they're bad next year, Panarin's going to be a hot commodity on the trade on the at deadline. Next deadline.
Exactly. So I'm really wondering, like, could we see that happen? The other one that I was thinking of was Mitch Marner. Marner, I think, is a little bit less likely, but could you see the Maple Leafs moving on from him?
I don't see Marner moving on from the Leafs. I think Marner genuinely wants to stay. Genuinely, he's from there. He's not going to. I don't think he's going to take a discount though.
That is, yeah. I don't really think he should. Honestly, the cap's going up. I think he's having a great season.
Yeah. For me, I'm going to say this: the only way Toronto doesn't re-sign Marner is if they say, "Listen, we're not going to pay that for you. We're going to go in a different direction."
Yeah, exactly.
That's the only way I see Marner not being on the Leafs next year.
So yeah. Next one. What about Philip Forsberg?
Here's the thing: if Nashville bounces back next year, we're not having this conversation.
100%. Yeah, I agree. Forsberg, still on a longer term deal, but if they're
recently got extended though, didn't he? Like year to 2 years ago.
2 years ago. But I wonder if they're bad, could they move on from him?
There'd be a lot of suitors for a guy like Forsberg.
What about Roman Josi? 4 years left. It'll be 3 years by the time next season starts.
If they're going for a rebuild, I think he'd be one of the first pieces moved out.
I mean, he's 34, so you might as well get a return for him while you can. And unless if he comes to them and says, "No, I want to be in Nashville. I'm probably the best player that's ever played here."
Yeah, and tonight's actually Josi. He passed his leg one for most games played as a Pred all time.
Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty awesome. Next one, I'll go there. What about Brady Tkachuk?
Lucky, you know what I'm doing under my desk right now? I'm flipping you the double bird right now. Um,
Well, I'm trying to think, LeBlanc. Like I'm trying to think of like guys who have been in talks before. Like I personally don't think it happens.
I don't think it happens. Like, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If Ottawa makes playoffs this year, we're probably not having this conversation.
We are no, not probably. We are not having this
Yeah.
conversation.
If Ottawa misses playoffs this year and they miss next year, then I could see him requesting a trade. But I think if Ottawa's competitive though, I don't see him requesting out. He's always said he always wants to be a Senator. He never said he's never mentioned leaving. He's never mentioned wanting to play somewhere else. Never mentioned that he doesn't like living in Ottawa. He praises the city, praises the organization so much. I don't see it happening.
Exactly. Yeah. I only brought him up because I wanted to make you mad, and I think that it also it still is a discussion. Like it still is it impossible. But I think if Ottawa makes the playoffs this year, like I even think like if they miss, like I like this year, like they took a massive step this year. I think Kachuk will see that and be like, yeah, I want to stay here still. But if they miss next year, like you said, then I could totally see.
Yeah, because the thing of it, like Kachuk, he wants to play in the playoffs, and I think if once we get to the next 2 years, I think he's going to be 27 at that point, 27, 28
After next season,
after 2 seasons. So we're going 2 years down the road.
yeah, 27, 28.
Yeah, so he'll be 27, 28. I think then he's gonna, yeah, like, and I get it, but I just if Ottawa is competitive and like I'm just missing like by like 1 or 2 points, like I think he'll stay.
Well, like I'm gonna be honest with you, like I'm sure you are tired of hearing this because you've been hearing this for years at this point
Here,
that Kachuk
we've been
traded, and there's really no backup behind it. Like apart from what oh my God, was it Larry Brooks who said that? Like I mean, like there wasn't even really any backup to that. So like I don't think like at least right now there is nothing backing up the fact that Kachuk's gonna get traded. I still stand by that. Like I don't think that that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't either. But if I'm looking at guys like in situations that like they don't really want to be in, what about a guy like Nazem Kadri?
I don't really think that he's like a star.
He's not a
player.
star player, but he's a guy who has, he has some weight to him.
So I'm gonna say this: the Calgary Flames came out a couple weeks ago. They said that Rasmus Anderson, Mackenzie Weegar, and likely Nazem Kadri, like they're gonna probably
them. Yeah, which I don't really.
Well, Kadri's on like a.
I know he's still 5 years left, but like those are guys who like they're not going to trade away. They're not. Which I don't really agree with. But guys, what about a guy like Jared McCann?
Yeah, if we're talking about like good players on their individual teams, I think McCann might be one because again, like he is on a little bit of a shorter term deal, only $5 million. I think for a guy still 28 years old, leads the team in points. I think that wouldn't be a bad idea. In hindsight,
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other teams real quick.
I got a couple.
Like,
Sidney Crosby.
There's and I think we've said this almost every episode. Crosby cares about his legacy as a Penguin more than he cares about winning another cup.
Yeah, but I wanted to bring him up
I know,
so.
I know, and I feel like if Crosby is open to a trade, I think Colorado is sniffing all over that.
Well, if I have to hear Biz say Crosby to the Avalanche one more time, I might lose my mind.
You know what would be crazy?
Oh,
If Crosby somehow got to Edmonton.
God forbid. He is on an $8.7 million. Why'd you speak that into existence? Why'd you do that? Why did you do that? Oh my God. What about? I was thinking about like I was looking through guys who like are expiring players coming up. What about a guy like Kyle Connor? We were pissing off everyone.
We're
today.
pissing off all the fan bases. This is why no one likes us.
True.
Kyle Connor, like if Winnipeg is winning, I don't see them trading him. I don't see him requesting a trade. Unless Connor's like, I don't want to play in Winnipeg anymore. I don't see him requesting out.
Okay. I actually have two or oh my God, we missed so many. I have three more here and then we'll wrap up. Let's go there. Well, let's start off with Jack Eichel first. What about Eichel? What do you think?
It's a good situation in Vegas. I can't really say. I could see him leaving via free agency more than I see him being traded.
Yeah, he's a free agent in 2026. He's 28. He could get so much money, but
On the market, you're looking at like 13 million probably.
exactly. So I don't know. What about? And this is one we should have talked about from the start. What about Kirill Kaprizov? That's a really interesting.
That's an interesting one because let's say the Wild aren't great, and Kaprizov won't or if Kaprizov says he's not resigning, I could see them trading him. I could see it.
That's gonna come out though, and they're not gonna get a good return, and that's gonna be a good enough return. But again, I think no matter what, you're not.
You got to treat that like a Luka trade. Keep it under wraps. Keep it under wraps.
Yep, you cannot let anything slip out to the media or anything like that. And then we'll wrap up with the biggest one. We didn't really talk about any goalies. I didn't really think of any goalies, but we'll wrap up with the biggest one. Connor McDavid.
Like I said, I would see him leaving in free agency, but I feel like since Leon re-signed, he's going to re-sign.
Yeah, I think that's another one of those cases. But there are so many people who think that McDavid's going to Toronto or McDavid's going to the Rangers or McDavid's going to all these other places.
Listen, Toronto, you either get Matthews or you get McDavid. You can't have both. You can't. You can't pay both.
No.
And the Rangers are just like throw money on anything that moves. Like just throw.
That's why they got Miller. They threw money at him.
This is why. So the Rangers are I'm gonna sound like an old head here. The Rangers are the reason we have a salary cap.
I mean, yeah, that and the Canadians, but what's funny is like people forget like back in like the 60s and 70s, the Canadians would just pay teams like $50,000 in cash or like $100,000 in cash for picks.
And there was the Quebec rule where the Montreal Canadiens had the rights to the best player from Quebec in the draft year.
That was a rule.
That was a rule, and it was a rule for a very long time. I think I got reprimanded in the 70s.
Jesus Christ! I mean, to be fair, there was like 16.
Because it's like, oh, it's territorial rights.
That's like, oh my God, that's like Boston at the time saying we have entire control of this whole eastern region.
Yeah. Or like Detroit, like we have the rights best player in Michigan and Windsor.
Oh my God, yeah. People forget like back then, like the league was so much different. That's why the Habs were so good for so long.
Yeah, because they had it's fun you getting Guy Lafleur for free. It's fun getting Guy Lafleur.
Exactly, like. What's fun and what people don't realize too is like Lafleur would have been on like the Golden Seals like if it weren't for like that thing that happened. Like Lafleur was picked first overall by Montreal with that Seals pick. So again, but yeah, the league has changed a lot since then. I that went off on a whole tangent, but I think McDavid stays. I think that pretty much shows just how unserious that is. But McDavid stays.
Yeah,
yeah. Do you have any other ones you wanted to bring up?
I got nothing. You said all the ones I had, so.
Okay.